How do we research tomorrow's issues today? How do we make wellness ageless? How do we serve a diverse community better? How do we prepare our graduates for an unknown future? At the University of Arizona Health Sciences, tomorrow isn't something over the horizon. Tomorrow is here.
From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Tonight, we travel to the Hopi Nation and speak to several veterans who explain the hardships they face when trying to get access to health care on Native lands.
Lies to keep him in and lies to cover it up and lies to just keep moving on.
Plus, the Navajo Nation reacting tonight to the impeachment proceedings happening in D.C.
And everything you thought you knew about tornadoes debunked. From myths to legends, Cronkite News breaks down the realities behind these natural disasters.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Jennifer Alvarez.
And I'm Jordan Elder. Thank you for joining us.
For generations, Native Americans have served in the U.S. military at higher rates than most.
Today, some 150,000 people who identify as Indigenous are veterans of the armed services. Yet many of these veterans struggle to access the health care they need.
Cronkite News reporter Gabrielle Oliveira went to the Hopi Tribe's reservation and spoke with veterans there to better understand the obstacles they're facing.
The veterans we spoke with mentioned a lack of services actually present on the reservation and how difficult it is to travel long distances to get the medical care they need.
Jacket zipped, helmet on, and American bandana showing the pride Clifford Bolinkwa feels as a United States veteran. The Hopi tribesman loves to ride his motorcycle on the reservation, which stretches more than 2,500 square miles. Over 9,000 Hopi live here, and many of them are also veterans. Serving in the military is an experience Clifford recalls both with pride and anguish.
I can't help but think about my time in the service and to think about if I had never gone to Vietnam, I probably would have never been like this. So even at my old age, and I'm 74, it bothers me.
The Hopi culture is considered a peaceful one, and so processing the trauma of war has not been easy for Bolinkwa and others like him.
Like for years and years, and even now, when I'm driving down the road, I see a dead dog on the side of the road or a dead animal, I think about Vietnamese children that are, or Vietnamese people that are killed, laying there.
Decades after Vietnam, Bolinkwa is still struggling with anxiety, depression, and PTSD. But what frustrates him and other Native veterans most are roadblocks they say prevent them from getting the services they're entitled to. A lack of easy access to health care and an absence of culturally appropriate care are pressing issues experts say the federal government needs to fix.
American Indians and Alaska Natives have the highest poverty rate and the highest uninsured rate. This seems out of balance. We serve, we protect, but yet we struggle to have parity in the system.
Congress is considering legislation that, if implemented, would help Native veterans in urban areas access more services, but challenges remain for those living on reservations. Native American veterans do have access to Indian health services, but for more specialized care, they're usually forced to travel for hours to one of the 3 VA hospitals in the state. For example, the Hopi Nation to the Phoenix VA is 234 miles. It's a long trek for veterans like Vanessa Barnes-Suedo, who served in Afghanistan from 2008 to 2014. Once she returned from combat, she says she thought she would have easier access to medical resources through Veterans Affairs. However, that hasn't been the case.
And they kept pushing me to be a part of the service units that are out here, but they're only used through telecom and webcam, and I prefer face-to-face.
The VA says all these issues are complex.
They are trying to seek their own healing in their own way, and I think the Veterans Administration is responding and looking into that as well.
Someone who is trying to help is Eugene Tallis, who served in the Air Force for 30 years. He's part of the Hopi Veteran Services program on the reservation.
The ones I'm trying to work with is to get maybe the mental health, the PTS, post-traumatic stress disorder, group counseling sessions here on Hopi. I think that needs to be strengthened up for all our combat war veterans that are facing those type of issues, whether it's mental health, post-traumatic stress disorder, even that might lead into other social issues.
You can't run down the street to see a mental health therapist, So there's a lot to be desired on Indian reservations.
There's an Office of Rural Health within the VA to help address issues affecting veterans in remote areas or on tribal land. That office has 5 health resource centers, none of which are in Arizona. Live in the broadcast center, Gabrielle Olvera, Cronkite News.
The 2020 presidential race is shaving off a few candidates yet again as we head into the final month of 2019. Montana Governor Steve Bullock and former Pennsylvania Congressman Joe Sestak both announcing their departures from the race in the last 24 hours. Bullock and Sestak suffered from low poll numbers throughout their campaigns. The moves come as a new state poll shows former Vice President Joe Biden slipping in Iowa while Mayor Pete Buttigieg surges in the Hawkeye state. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is holding the lead in most polls in his neighboring New Hampshire, while Biden maintains a strong lead in South Carolina.
The impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump continues to dominate news and headlines on social media. It's also peaked discussion on the Navajo Nation. So we wanted to know what people in the Navajo Nation's capital thought about the proceedings. So we went where real people go, the gas station in Window Rock.
Lies.
Shocked. Controversial. Hope he gets out of it.
The reactions to the impeachment hearings are across the board.
He's just trying to help this American people, I guess.
The history repeating itself is all I can say about it.
Many presidents have faced impeachment threats, but only 2, Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton, have been formally impeached by Congress. DNA College's Michael Lerma says it's hard to know what residents of the Navajo Nation think about the impeachment inquiry into President Trump.
We don't know what the Navajo citizens really believe in terms of all this. We won't know. Gallup isn't going to come out here and do a survey.
The mainstream media kind of putting a stereotype on Native people, and so they think we don't exist today. They think we don't exist in politics, are not very active in it, or think they're relics of the past.
But Jordan Bennett Begay says that's not true. She's covering the impeachment hearings in Washington, D.C.
Next story I'm working on is a story about how tribal leaders don't want to comment on the impeachment because they're afraid of repercussions.
The way Navajo Nation residents get their impeachment coverage differs.
Younger people get the news from social media. For those of us that are in the middle, get our news from TV, satellite, and then for our elders, they get it from radio.
But Bennett Begay says that people are definitely paying attention.
How can we indigenize the news? How can we ask these questions, but ask questions that are specifically for Indian country?
The opinions over the impeachment hearings on the Navajo Nation are divided, but many are united in the waiting.
I'm gonna wait till the truth comes out before I make my reaction.
If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. So try to stay out of politics.
The impeachment proceedings return this Wednesday when the House Judiciary Committee holds its first impeachment hearing. The Valley saw wild weather over the Thanksgiving holiday with 3 tornadoes touching down.
And there's been some conversation on social media asking if this was tied to climate change.
Jordan Evans is with us now to tell us whether there's actually any truth to this.
Yeah, it's very interesting you bring that up, Jordan, because I have seen a lot of conversation on Twitter about was climate change responsible for the tornadoes that we saw here in the Valley last weekend? And the simple answer is no, and I'll explain why here in just a minute. But let's give you kind of a historical context of tornadoes here in the Valley. In fact, for a day that we saw more than 1 tornado here in Maricopa County, we have to go all the way back to 1992 for when the last time that happened. And for the total number of tornadoes that we have seen here in Maricopa County, that number sits at 62, including the 4 that we saw so far this year, and that data goes all the way back to 1950 at least. So still a lot less than what we would see compared to states out in the Midwest. But talking about Friday again, here's a look at radar. In fact, the National Weather Service issuing 2 tornado warnings within the same hour. That first one for northern sections of the valley, including Paradise Valley and North Scottsdale, and the second one for southeastern sections like Gilbert, Apache Junction, and northern sections of Queen Creek too, because these tornadoes spawned with very little to no warning, and they did unfortunately cause quite a bit of damage. So take a look at some of these photos. In fact, trees toppling onto some cars and even falling onto homes in some places too. And good news is no reports of any injuries or fatalities, but still quite a bit of damage. So let's talk about the setup, because this was something that's not very common here in the valley, very common out in the Midwest actually. So we need 3 things to spawn these kind of tornadoes that we had. And the first one is a cold front, and we had a very intense one from that bomb cyclone that we saw last week. The second thing is a lot of moisture coming up from the south, and we had it being pumped up by very strong winds here at the surface. That third ingredient, and this is probably the most important one, is wind shear. And wind shear is simply the changing of wind speed and direction with height in the atmosphere. So let's give you a breakdown of that. Behind the cold front, you have really strong winds coming out of the northwest. Now here at the surface, we had very strong winds coming out of the south, anywhere from gusting up to 40 to 50 miles per hour. But as you go several thousand feet up in the atmosphere, notice the winds begin to change with direction out of the southwest. Meteorologists, we call that veering winds, where winds tend to change in a clockwise manner as you go up with height in the atmosphere. That causes the air to rotate, and we could see that on the velocity couplets of radar. In fact, you can see right here, we get these little turnings of the greens and red. That is the rotation that we saw in some of these storms as they progressed from west to east through the valleys. So again, take a look at the destruction. It speaks for itself in this picture. In fact, entire trees uprooted because of the strong winds in these tornadoes. So let's go back to the conversation about, was climate change a factor in these tornadoes? And the simple answer is no, because when we talk about climate change is a look at the long-term pattern of the planet's warming. And the planet's warming means warmer oceans and more water vapor in the atmosphere. And those are 2 key ingredients to allow storm systems to intensify. So that's exactly what happened with that bomb cyclone last week. But the National Weather Service telling me that we cannot base one event off of climate change. The only thing that they can tell me is that they have happened before, and they will happen again. Live in the Weather Center, Jordan Evans, Cronkite News.
Coming up on Cronkite News at 5, innovation in the classroom.
See how one Valley school is using new techniques to teach students subjects like math and science.
And diving into the future, how a new organization is expanding opportunities for young aspiring swimmers.
A new school is using green screens and 3D printers to teach students typically traditional subjects like math and science.
Super cool stuff. Cronkite News reporter Mariah Gallego spoke with students and teachers at the Spark School at Cairin de las Manitas. Mariah?
The shift in teaching techniques emerges from 2 issues. 1, teacher retention, and 2, redesigning learning to engage students more. And the Spark School is addressing both.
Hello, my name is Audrey, the meteorologist, coming at you with the new weather report.
Audrey Colbert is learning how to report on a natural disaster to her local area. At the Spark School, this is just one of the teaching techniques to replace the traditional book and test for science lessons.
Right now, they're becoming a meteorologist and helping the public prepare for a natural disaster, which is way more exciting to research than taking a paper-based test about natural disasters or participating in a mock trial versus just taking notes on an article.
I'm the Joy. We make she said we're gonna make a poster about how we're gonna do this.
Neftali Rivera is a part of the jury for the mock trial. The students are taking notes from their books, forming arguments for their current case.
It's unusual. It's not like the other one that I've been. It's a new program that used to be the Imagine, but now it's called Spark. We're learning all these things, like new stuff, like 3D printing and all the other stuff in the program, like different books, different like styles of learning. I like it. I like it a lot.
The standard math, language arts, science, and social studies are still being taught in the new school, but with interactive technology and Google Classroom.
In addition to 3D printers, we have Spheros, so students are practicing coding. And one of the coolest pieces of technology we have is virtual reality. So when we want to visit a place that we would really never be able to visit, such as the Amazon rainforest, students put the virtual reality on and they're actually inside of it. They can make observations as scientists in that space.
Mary Brown believes a blended learning environment is helping students stay engaged inside and outside of the classroom, all while still meeting Arizona education standards.
Everything you see in here is in our standards. We just teach it differently.
Brown says one of the biggest challenges they faced is introducing the more personalized learning style versus the traditional way students are accustomed to. But step by step, her team is working at it. Live in the newsroom, Mariah Gallegos, Cronkite News.
Right now, the vice chairman of the House Education Committee wants schools to teach students less about dating and more about what he calls patriotism. Republican Representative John Fillmore is pushing to repeal a state law that allows Arizona schools to teach signs of dating abuse, saying students should be dealing more with the reading, writing, and arithmetic. The lawmakers also proposing a bill that would require students to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Under current law, school districts must set aside a specific time each day for students who wish to recite the pledge. But Fillmore's bill removes that language, saying the only way out of it is for a parent to make a request to excuse his or her child.
A new league is diving right into the world of professional swimming.
Swimmers are getting the chance to compete year-round, make a living, and gain attention from advertisers worldwide.
Kirsten Corns has the story from our Los Angeles bureau.
Every 4 years, for a little over a week, the sport of swimming airs in households around the world in support of the Olympic Games. But why is it that although some swimmers have the same amount of talent as NBA, MLB, or even NFL players, they receive 1,000 times less money? That is why the first ever global professional swim league, known as International Swimming League, has been created.
The main reason why ISL was developed is to provide more opportunities to our athletes and obviously to bring the exposure of our sport into a mainstream. Right now, we get the attention every 4 years during the Olympic Games for that 1 week, and maybe a few months afterwards for those that were successful at the Games. But afterwards, it's pretty much back in the dark for 3.5 years.
The league itself consists of 8 teams, all of equal gender, 12 women and 12 men, with 75% of the members proudly calling themselves Olympic champions and world record holders, such as World Championship medal holder Kendall Stewart.
And up until this point, it's been pretty difficult to continue racing to earn a living for yourself post NC2A graduation, especially if you haven't, earned an Olympic medal yet. And I think that ISL is exciting because it is just scratching the surface on what professional swimming can be.
In 2019, ISL became the first professional swim league to have athletes compete for the ultimate prize, money. Teams in Europe and the United States compete for points just as much as they try to improve individual times. Now, there are 6 preliminary races here and overseas, ending with the championship finals in Las Vegas this coming December. How many people can say they're the best in the world at what they do? That is why they deserve to be making a living from it.
I've been swimming my entire life, and now I have the really awesome opportunity to swim professionally and to be able to literally support myself just doing something that I've always loved.
By introducing a media-friendly format and bringing an entertainment component to swimming, ISL promotes not only gender equality, but equal pay amongst their athletes.
beautiful women, my gosh, they are awesome. And the guys, of course, they're awesome. So it's like bringing them together in this kind of setting. You know, one of my favorite things is just watching these guys warm up, how smooth they look in the water.
ISL is setting the bar. You know, this is how it should be, and I think that that's significant in itself. Like you said, equal pay, equal opportunities for men and women should be that way in everything.
The measure of our sport, a measure is the same thing. It's you go up the pool and down the pool, and your time is the measure. It's the same for men and women, and so there shouldn't be any tilting of the playing field. It's the same thing.
Worldwide, viewers will have the chance to watch the sport of swimming grow. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Kirsten Corns.
ISL's goal is to grow a global audience enthusiastic about swimming with a little help from sponsors as well. They hope with more viewers, more success will follow for these talented swimmers.
And a good evening to you. I'm Jordan Evans here in the Cronkite News Weather Center, and we've got a rather mild, pleasant evening tonight with temperatures a little bit warmer than yesterday, but we will still fall off to those 50s by 8 o'clock, so it's still jackets tonight and for the rest of the week too. As high pressure is going to build in, we actually will top out a little bit near 70 tomorrow, but temperatures drop heading into Wednesday. We got another storm system coming in, but this one's going to be moving pretty fast, so we're not expecting a ton of rain across the state, but still enough to cause a damper on those Wednesday evening plans. So here's a brief breakdown of what that looks like for the valley. Best chances for rain after 5 o'clock on Wednesday, and those amounts anywhere from 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch possible. And up in the high country, this will be mainly a rain event with the best chances after 12 o'clock and amounts just a little bit higher, up to 1/2 inch possible near Flagstaff. The snow levels can be a lot higher, up near 7,000 feet, so only 1 to 2 inches there likely there in Flagstaff as the storm system is all set and done. Here's a look at that 7-day forecast here in the valley. Rain chances for Wednesday, drying things out by Thursday, but by the weekend, we've got another weak storm system coming into the Great Basin region with about a 10% chance of showers and thunderstorms.
Thanks, Jordan. Up next, the heartwarming story of a young hockey player defying all odds.
After the break, we'll introduce you to Charlie and show you why some people are calling him a miracle child.
Stay in the know on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
On the next Arizona Horizon, we'll hear about prescription-strength fish oil for those at risk of heart attack and stroke. And award-winning designers show their stuff at a house inspired by a famed architect. On the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, what the women of Afghanistan could lose if the Taliban returns to power. Coming up after Cronkite News and Arizona Horizon on Arizona PBS.
Growing up with a disability can make it difficult to play sports, but with one hockey program, setbacks become advantages. Cronkite News reporter Trey Bates got an inside look at one boy's journey in the program.
Charlie Paparone is, for the most part, a typical teenager. He likes video games,
I just scored.
doing his homework, and playing sports. In his case, hockey.
I like the buddies, I like skating, and I like shooting the puck in the net and making slap shots.
But when Charlie was born, sports were the last thing on his mother's mind.
When Charlie was a baby, he was born very early, very premature, so he had a lot of special needs. We went through a period where he had many hospitalizations, multiple hospitalizations every year.
Doctors diagnosed Charlie with cognitive delay, cerebral palsy, and autism. But despite his challenges for years, there's only one thing Charlie kept begging his parents to do.
He's been saying for 8 years, "Daddy, I want to play hockey, I want to play hockey."
Charlie's father, Jeff, didn't think it was possible. But thanks to Mission Ice Arizona's special edition program, Charlie laces up his skates and overcomes the uncertainties.
I told him, I said, basically give it up. It's probably not going to happen. And so when he started last year, it was a good thing to eat crow.
Mission Ice is a Peoria-based youth club hockey organization run by Jeremy and Brandy Goltz. 3 years ago, they launched the Special Edition program to provide opportunities for kids with special needs to play hockey.
A place where their children can do everything that other typical children can do. And that's not always the case when you have a child with special needs.
The cost to families participating in Mission Special Edition? $0. That's thanks to support from across Mission Ice's club programs.
And the thing about it that was really shocking is that for us out of pocket, it doesn't cost anything because of all the donations. Hockey's expensive. We know that. Most people who play know that. But for that opportunity to come up, is a huge blessing.
The Goltzes asked club families to donate equipment that is no longer used and ice time for practices to the Special Edition program. When she first pitched the idea, Brandy knew it wouldn't be an issue.
We know our kids and we know our parents. And if we say to them, we can do this if you guys will take 1/2 of your practice. It's their money, they're paying for it, but 1/2 of your practice, and you come out here and you give back.
And thanks to that giving back, players like Charlie get to play a game they love.
His absolute enthusiasm. He's kind of got an addictive smile. He's a very happy person. He likes to see his teammates, he likes to see his coaches. As soon as he sees you, he wants to come tell you everything he did that day. He likes to be here. He's just like a happy kid and a really good teammate. And he's not a bad hockey player.
That they actually make me a friend of theirs because I like shooting and making slap shots and just like running into the goalie. Like one time a couple of weeks ago, I flipped on the goalie.
Moments like that for the nearly 20 players currently registered for the Mission Ice program allow them the chance to be like any other kid.
It just gives them an opportunity to play with kids of their skill level, of their abilities, but more so, an opportunity just to have fun.
He's just grown and blossomed, and now to look at him, you know, it's just amazing. He's a miracle.
In Phoenix, Trey Bates, Cronkite Sports Report.
Charlie hopes to someday play hockey at the next level, and his dream is to join ASU or Ohio State's Division I program.
He will definitely make it there. That's it for Cronkite News tonight.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Several key things that we thought were absolutely true about the brain are being challenged. Join us on a journey across the frontiers of neuroscience, psychology, and neurology as we explore the immense power of the Brain Fitness Program.
Tonight at 9 on Arizona PBS.
She was the queen of soul. Everything that she would do would be a part of history.
When you heard Aretha, you knew it was Aretha.
Tonight at 11 on Arizona PBS. Explore new ideas and new worlds here on Arizona PBS, a community service of Arizona State University.
Arizona PBS provides you great musical performances all year long. And now we have some of the best seats for you to see some of your favorite acts live and in concert. Arizona PBS Box Office presents a backstage pass for you to meet world-class performers and offers a chance to see exciting performances before they sell out. This month, Arizona PBS Box Office presents
The Fab Four, returning to Arizona on Friday, January 24th at the Mesa Arts Center.
Watch sneak previews of what's coming soon. Go to azpbs.org/previews today.
Hi, Michael Crow here, President of ASU. Everyone should know that lifelong learning is going to be an essential ingredient to you and your family's success. I'm really proud that Arizona PBS and Arizona State University are working together in every possible way to make certain that you, through the PBS network here and our station here, can have access to all that you need to move your family forward in terms of gaining access to learning over your entire lifetime. No matter what your age, no matter where you are, no matter where you're sitting, no matter what you're doing, we are here for you, and we're really excited about that.
Arizona PBS celebrates a moment in time, made possible by Rock Springs Cafe. Phoenix rose from the ashes in 1868, growing from a thriving agricultural town to a culturally diverse city. Phoenix is now the 5th largest city in the U.S. with over 1 million people.
Coming soon to Arizona PBS.
Washington Week is an island of civil discourse in a chaotic media environment. On Friday night, we gather the best reporters in the nation and have a conversation that's about informing the American people.
Washington Week. All new Friday night at 7 on Arizona PBS. Support for Arizona PBS comes from viewers like you and from
Friendship Village Tempe, a retirement community for over 30 years, offers independent living with residency options, lifelong learning classes, as well as continuing care. Information at friendshipvillageaz.com.
Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, a new recommendation